All right, good morning and welcome. It's Corporate Governance Platform brought to you by the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN. I am Funmi Omoboriwo. All right, ICSAN is a leading recognized professional body in Nigeria that's dedicated to enhancing the status and practice of corporate governance and public administration. Today on the program, we want to look at corporate meetings as a vehicle of attaining strategic objectives. And our guest is right here in the studio. I have right here Mrs. IRENE ATTOE, ACIS, Publicity Secretary, ICSAN Lagos State Chapter, lawyer and administrator, also Company Secretary, Secure Electronic Technologies, PLC. Good morning.
Good morning for me. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning. And also right here in the studio, I have Mr. Kade Ketefe, CIS, Head of Research, ICSAN. Good morning, Mr. Ketefe.
Good morning for me. Our guest, Mrs. IRENE ATTOE, ACIS, good morning to you and all our teaming listeners. Good morning.
All right. We're going to take this message and we'll be right back. Just stay with us.
The world is constantly evolving into a knowledge-based economy where skills and competencies constitute the lifeblood of public and corporate governance. You therefore need to empower yourself to fit into this new world by gaining basic knowledge and improving your skill set in the governance-focused disciplines. That is why every aspiring as well as practicing professional in governance field needs ICSAN.
ICSAN. What is ICSAN?
ICSAN is a leading statutorily established professional body dedicated to enhancing the status and practice of corporate governance and public administration. ICSAN members are trained as chartered secretaries and administrators.
Who are chartered secretaries and administrators?
Chartered secretaries are high-ranking governance professionals with a broad base of skills, unique amongst other professions. They are trained in law, finance, accounting, administration, strategy development, and corporate governance. In today's world, chartered secretaries and administrators discharge a wide range of duties and responsibilities, including functioning as chairmen of companies, executive directors, non-executive directors, company secretaries, risk managers, compliance managers, board evaluators, and corporate governance evaluators.
That is interesting. How then do I become a chartered secretary and administrator?
Good. Go to the Institute's website, www.icsan.org. You can also visit the National Secretariat of ICSAN at Plot 6, Elephant Cement Way, Alausa, Ikeja, Lagos, to get full information on how to become members. ICSAN, the hub of governance professionals.
All right, and definitely the hub of governance professionals. As I said earlier, we're looking at corporate meetings as a vehicle of attaining strategic objectives. All right, so let's begin this way. Let's look at effective board meeting and why it's regarded as important in corporate governance.
Well, thank you for me. Well, for companies, the board is the principal medium by which a company acts. We all know that the company is not a physical person, and so the company takes decisions and makes binding decisions through its board. The board is responsible for the strategic objectives of the company, setting the goals and long-term goals and objectives of the company. And this is why it is important that the meetings of the board have to be effective. It is key to achieving those objectives and keeping the company's business forward and satisfying the needs of the shareholders.
All right, so what are the committees that are traditionally recognized in corporate governance parlance as board committees?
Board committees. The board acts as a whole and then sometimes acts through board committees established, made up of board members. And the principal committees include the governance committee. Some boards have the remuneration committee. You have the audit committee and then the risk management committee. These are the principal committees that are recognized by the Corporate Governance Code.
All right. So when we talk about, the board meeting, we say effective. And it's not just any kind of board meeting. We talk about effective board meeting. So looking at that word effective, what does it really signify?
Well, for a meeting to be effective, it means it's attaining the purpose for which it was held. So some people would consider meetings as time wasting. I mean, in today's world where everything is fast-paced, we have people working remotely. Some people feel that meetings take much of your time and keep you away. But that's different when it comes to a company. In corporate governance, the meeting is strategic. It is important because it is at those meetings of the board that the company can act, decisions are made, and records are generated. Records of meetings are very important, very crucial, because they are the evidence of all that is transpired at that meeting, and that's why it's very key. To have an effective meeting, that meeting must have a purpose for which it was held, and it must fulfill those purposes. And that whatever was discussed there and deliberated has to be targeted at meeting the overall objectives of that company. That's how you can have an effective board meeting.
All right, great. And moving on from that particular question, I want you to look at key issues that are crucial for effective board meeting.
Well, first of all, to have an effective board meeting, you have to have board members present.
Okay.
And which is why attendance is key. So you have to have the board members present. The law requires that you should, before any transactions can be carried out during a meeting, you must have a quorum. The quorum is defined by law. It's also defined by the company's in-house charter, which is like the constitution of every company. So if you do not have a quorum, every activity, every decision that was made at that meeting is considered invalid. So which is why attendance is key. When you're as a director, you are a trustee, you are a steward of the company. And so the law holds directors of companies to very high standards. And that is why decisions that are taken, directors have corporate responsibility. What do I mean by that? You have collective responsibility for actions that you take as a board. Now, if a director keeps away from the meeting and certain decisions are made, they are, to a large extent, you are still bound by those decisions. So it is important for every director to ensure that they fulfill their obligations, their duties, and perform the functions, their statutory functions, by being present to take those decisions. And if you have a different view to a decision, it should be registered that you voted against. And that is the record that will hold you true to your having discharged your responsibility.
Yeah,
I don't know if I answered your question.
Okay, it's fine. Now, there's a provision of the code and corporate governance that every director, which is in relation to the board, though, that every director should endeavor to attend all board meetings. Now, the attendance record of directors should be among the criteria for the re-election of a director. So why do you think it's desirable for the attendance record being used among criteria for a director's re-election?
Well, it's important to have, for the attendance would count for re-election, because why have an officer who wouldn't be there? If a company cannot act for itself, the shareholders elect board members to represent them. And that means you represent their interests and the well-being of the company. So an absent director cannot perform. So if you are voted in, if you're elected as a director, and you should be conscionable and take that responsibility with the high value that attaches to that office, and show up and act on behalf of that company. So if you go back to the shareholders at the annual general meeting and it is shown that a particular director is absent consistently from meetings, then there's no point, because it's like you don't have an officer who is acting in your favor. So the attendance is very important.
All right. Let's talk about shareholders meeting. What's it all about?
Well, the shareholders, shareholders have a right, a legal right to information about the company at every given point in time. In fact, the law goes to the extent of providing that a shareholder can walk into a company and ask to see the records. They can ask for your minutes books. they can ask for certain documents, and you should oblige them, because ideally the shareholder is the owner of the company. You would treat him with the authority and value that you accord an owner. So if the shareholders meetings is a channel through which the board and then management of a company keeps the shareholders informed about activities that went on during the year or for a period, and then it provides an avenue for shareholders to have their concerns clarified. If they have issues, they channel it through the shareholders meetings, and core decisions relating to the company, election of directors, you check effectiveness of your board. In principle, issues like that are also determined at shareholder meetings.
All right, great. Looking at the time, I guess we're going to have to hold on. I must say a very big thank you to you. Of course, Mrs. IRENE ATTOE, ACIS. I still have Mr. Ketefe right here in the studio. And the question I want to ask Mr. Ketefe is if ICSAN has a guidance paper on corporate meetings, or it's proposing to have one.
Thank you very much, Fumi, for that question. An institute like ICSAN, so the answer to immediately be answered in the affirmative.
All right.
Yes. So ICSAN has a lot of materials that can serve as a guide on the issue of meeting, even minutes writing. So a lot of materials, as I said, but the one that readily comes to my mind is the first edition of our company secretary handbook, which was published a few years ago, precisely in 2019. The title of that company secretary book I told of is corporate meetings and minutes writing. So it exclusively focuses on meeting and minutes. The topics that you will see in that edition will comprise what we will describe as A to Z, or on the theme of meetings and minutes writings. There are chapters on meaning and importance of meetings, types and nature of meetings, roles of the chairman and the secretary at the meetings, the issue of employing relevant technology to enhance the effectiveness of meetings, the checklist and requirement of successful annual general meeting, voting procedure at meetings, and emerging issues of e-voting, fundamentals minutes writing, and logistic and resources management in preparation of meetings. So from all these, you know there's a very, very rich handbook. In fact, all the relevant topics that one needs to know on the issue of meetings and minutes writing are well covered. So the book is being sold for a paltry 10,000 naira. So I'm calling on company secretaries, directors, administrators, and other professionals in the governance field to grab copies of this book. It's a useful companion. Copies of the handbook, as well as other ICSAN publications, can be purchased online at www.icsan.org. You can also pick a copy at our headquarters in Plot 6, Elephant Cement Way, Alausa, Ikeja, or any of our chapters nationwide. The Institute also organizes training that cover all themes and topics on corporate governance, inclusive of the meetings and minute writing that we are talking about today. So for more information on ICSAN training, please call Akudazi on 080 372 66853. For more information on ICSAN training, please call Akudazi on 080 372 66853. Thank you for listening and have a pleasant day.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ketefe, FCIS, Head of Research, ICSAN. In like manner, I thank Mrs. IRENE ATTOE, ACIS, Publicity Secretary, ICSAN Lagos State Chapter, Lawyer and Administrator, Company Secretary, Secure Electronic Technology PLC. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for me. It was my pleasure.
All right, and that's how we wrap it up this morning on Corporate Governance Platform, brought to you by the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN. We're back again next week on a fresh edition of Corporate Governance Platform. I am Fumi Omoburiu. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Good content. Exciting radio.